morning, y'all. I'm going to steal something from the poet Kenneth Goldsmith and tell you to please keep your phones on this morning. Tweet and Instagram all you like. I'm Austin Kleon on Twitter. So, let me get my notes going here. As Ben said, I'm supposed to get up and talk about the future, and I have no idea about the future, honestly. But I thought maybe since this is the first Creative Mornings, I would talk a little bit about maybe the future of our little get-together here. It's really weird to try to give a talk about the future because most of the time these kinds of talks are actually about the past. You know, you have someone who's accomplished something gets up here and they supposedly have some sort of advice to impart, maybe in a list of 10. But I actually have this theory that all advice is autobiographical. A lot of times when people give you advice, they're really just talking to themselves in the past. And usually, most of the time, we usually think of the past as behind us and the future in front of us. And this seems very natural. But a few years ago, I read about this tribe in the Andes in South America. They're called the Aymara, and they have this really strange way of thinking about time. When they talk about the past, they actually gesture ahead of them. And when they talk about the future, they gesture behind them. And this seems really strange, right? Well, their reasoning is that, the future, the past has already happened. They can see it. It's in front of them. And the future hasn't happened yet because they can't see it, so it's behind them. And this just, it might be a little early for this, If any of you are buzzed from last night, maybe this is making sense. But this kind of blew my mind, this idea that the past is in front of us because we can see it. It's already happened. And the future is behind us because we can't see it. Anyway, the future is hard to talk about because it's behind us. We can't see it yet. I'm flipping through slides here. I'm missing it already. So 5 months ago, I became a father. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know I post a lot of photos of my kid. I'm one of those people. I try to restrain myself, but it's just sort of impossible. I'm so used to sharing bits and pieces of myself on the internet that sometimes I forget that the people I know actually follow me online. So a few months ago, I had breakfast with this friend of mine, and we sat down, we're eating our breakfast tacos, and he says, so tell me about fatherhood. How you like being a father? And I just go into this rant, basically. I tell him pretty much what I tell everyone, which is becoming a father was both the best and the worst thing to ever happen to me. I told him, yes, it was wonderful. I loved Owen. I love my son so much. But I was completely unprepared for what a physical, mental, and spiritual endeavor fatherhood has turned out to be. And, my kid's a good baby, but if any of you have been around babies, you know that even the best baby in the world can be a complete monster sometimes. And everyone here, it's really funny, everyone's getting this very horrified look on their face. It was just the same look as my friend got on his face. Because people told me how tough it was to parent. They told me it was going to be rough, but nobody quite conveyed to me how insane sleep deprivation would make me, So just the same look of horror that's on your face right now. Steven, he got this look on his face, and he goes, but your Instagram, it's like everything looks so nice. And he was right. If you look at my Instagram feed, I'm dad of the year. I'm 100% into being a dad. I'm 100% into this kid. There's been all this talk online recently about authenticity. That's like this huge buzzword right now, authenticity. This insane idea that you can really know who someone is just by what they show you on the internet. That social media is somehow presenting a more authentic version of ourselves to the world. And as if we weren't actually making these kind of more perfect alter egos for ourselves online. And as if we aren't carefully choosing the bits and pieces that we show of ourselves to people in real life and meet space. The weird thing about social media is inevitably you start measuring your own life against the people that you see online. And so I started thinking about all the other parents I know and who have kids my age and the perfect baby photos they post too. My friend calls it cute spam. And they're just like me. They're posting pictures of their kids, these beautiful pictures, even though I know that they're going through the same struggles as I am. So anyway, Steve and I, we started talking about this, and I was thinking about my ambivalence towards parenting and kind of my conflicted thoughts. And I wondered, if I was doing a disservice to potential parents, if I was doing a disservice to people who are thinking about having kids by showing them this perfect rosy picture, parenthood. So I started thinking, maybe there should be a shadow gallery on Instagram. Maybe there should be a gallery where you post nothing but meltdowns, at 3 a.m. or you looking your most haggard. And unhappy, or maybe, petty texts that you send your wife while you're babysitting. Of course, then I started thinking, what about a shadow gallery for artists? Because creative work is a lot like parenting. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. It's hard, it's dirty, it's somewhat frustrating. It's a process, and it usually gets portrayed with this really heavy dose of romanticism. One time this woman came up to my wife, and I think it was at a book reading or something, she said, "Oh, must be so inspiring living with such a creative. Your house just must be full of creativity." And she said, "Oh yeah, it's like living with Da Vinci." I think we're living in this kind of mass fetishization of creativity, and you can see it in the way we use creative as a noun to describe certain people, as if, creativity is this trait that you own or you're born with or whatever, as if it's not just a tool in our toolbox of getting work done. Anyways, I don't know about you, but when I read those design blogs, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I read those design blogs and I see some artist in their perfect loft in Brooklyn, and there's a big window and there's all this light streaming in and a MacBook glistening in the corner, and I get this inferiority complex because that is not what my life looks like, Here I am in my dingy office at the top of the stairs, wearing cargo shorts, yes, trying to come up with a poem. Here's me with my well-paid studio assistant on my shoulder, scanning poems. Here's me in purple sweatpants on our lovely beige carpet, trying to come up with some sort of structure for my new book. Here's just a blinking word processor cursor. You'd be surprised how much I look at that particular thing. Here's a spread from my sketchbook. You'll notice there aren't any fancy drawings or great ideas for stories. It's actually me working out whether my wife and I can afford a compact car. Anyway, the problem with the shadow gallery is it's just like anything else. If you skew it too far the other way, it too gives an inaccurate picture. So anyway, this shadow gallery has got me thinking about the future of our little get-together here, the future of Austin Creative Mornings. I think we have this great opportunity. We can make this thing what we want it to be. We can think about the spirit in which we want to represent ourselves in this thing we call creativity and how we're going to go about talking about it with each other. So chapter 6 of my book, Steal Like an Artist, I kind of like lay out what I thought was the secret to connecting with an audience, and that is do good work and share it with people. And when I was out on book tour, I give my talk, and I had all these people still come up to me, people who had read the book, and they're like, they'd want to know that secret. They want to know like how to get discovered, or like how to connect, how to grow their audience, or whatever. And I started thinking about this do good work and share it with people, and I wondered if maybe it wasn't enough anymore. Maybe I needed to kind of deconstruct it. So I actually have 3 things that I think are wrong with my own piece of advice that I'm going to like tear down here for a minute. And the first one is the word good. I think on the whole, artists are terrible judges of what's good about their own work. I'm probably best known for this thing called newspaper blackout. I take a marker and a piece of newspaper, and I go through and I circle words that pop out at me, and then I kind of connect the words into these kind of funny phrases and sayings, and then when I'm done, I black out everything I don't need. This is what it looks like when I'm done. It's sort of like if the CIA did haiku. Now, I have to be completely honest with you. When I first started making these, I did not think they were good. I actually thought they were kind of stupid. Like, I thought they were writing exercises. I thought I was just messing around, And in fact, I only did about a dozen of these things until I kind of got bored with them. But when I first started making them, I just started my blog, and I thought to myself, well, I knew no one was reading my blog anyway. So I just posted all of them up there. I just threw them up on my blog. And then I went back to doing the work that I thought was, serious and intelligent or whatever. And then about a year after that, this blog called 37 Signals, I don't know how they found it, but they found one particular poem and they linked to it. And all these people 300 people probably, whatever, hundreds of people, streamed into my site, and I got a few blog comments, and people sent me a few emails, and it was really encouraging. And I thought, well, hell, I haven't done any of these things in a year, but maybe I should keep making these things. Maybe people actually want to see them. So I made this decision to go ahead and try to make a poem every day, even though I wasn't super into it. I would just see what happened and keep making a poem every day. And the weird thing that happened was, by putting my energy and effort into this and keeping on making them every day, I started to get better at them. And then they started really interesting me, and I started thinking about how I could push the form forward. And this is one of my favorites, actually. It says, I mean, yes, we're sinking, but the music is exceptional. So I just kept on doing these things. I did hundreds of them, just kept posting them to my blog, and slowly over time, they just kept getting hits and more readers and stuff like that. And then eventually an editor from HarperCollins emailed me, and she said, have you ever thought about doing a book of these? And I said, hell yes, I've thought about doing a book. And a couple of years later, my first book, Newspaper Blackout, came out. Now the point of that story was that if I had only stuck to what I thought was good work, if I had only waited to show people what I thought was really, really good work and serious work, I never would have, my first book would have never come out. I mean, I feel like half my career has sailed off the broken wind of, stuff I thought was farting around, basically. So that's the problem with the word good. And the second problem is with the word work. I think a lot of artists, we don't actually know what our real work is. And here's what I mean by that. We have this, we kind of know that creativity and creative work is a process, but a lot of times what we show people is not that actual process. We just show the products of it. So I've always wanted to be a writer. And when I was first starting out, I didn't have any writing done. So I would try to go to readings with other writers. And when I went, I would go and I would draw the people who were reading, and I would take all these notes. And so when I went back home, instead of just kind of sitting on these notes and keeping them in my sketchbook, I would actually post them to my blog. Again, I kind of do a write-up of these readings. And it was really cool because I would actually I would hear from some of the people I actually I wrote about and I drew. That's when I realized that the way to make friends on the internet is just talk nice about people, because everybody's got a Google alert on their name. So I met some really cool authors that kind of helped me along when I was just first starting out, just by like shining a spotlight on them, you know? And then I thought, well, hell, you know, I'm drawing artists, or I'm drawing writers at these things. Maybe I should draw the actual books. So I started like drawing the books that I read and kind of doing these weird maps of these books. And this was a really important part of starting out for me, because I didn't have any of my own work to show, but I could show the work of others. I could kind of learn and study in public. And then when I started posting my own work, it was really important to me to keep showing the process of my learning, to keep like being open with people and showing what was going on. And you know, a lot of that was not posting the beautiful, perfect Moleskine pages that you see on all these blogs. You know, a lot of it was like, I wanted to show how messy my process was, what it was really like in the sketchbook, what it was like to think on the page. And then when my first book came out, it was really important for me to kind of blog about the process and show people behind the scenes and kind of show them what was going on. And I also did that for my second book, Steal Like an Artist. And now I have this Tumblr blog where I actually research in public. Like, if you follow me on Tumblr, you pretty much know what my next book is going to be about, because I'm like super open with all my material, and it just seems natural to me, because what happens is when I post stuff up that I think is interesting, a lot of times I hear back from, you know, readers and people online. They're like, oh, well, if you like this, you should check that out. So this kind of like public research method really like feeds my, you know, creative process. And what's really strange about all this, or maybe not so strange, is that, you know, about 5 times as many people follow me on my Tumblr, which is like my scrapbook, versus on my blog, where I just post my own work. So it turns out that a great deal of my own work is actually pointing to the work of others. So that's part 2. So finally, third is the word share. Everybody okay? I know it's early. Okay. So when my first book, Newspaper Blackout, came out, you know, a lot of artists think that sharing is just a matter of putting their work in front of people where they can see it, you know, but sharing really means opening up and kind of having a relationship with your audience. It means letting your audience kind of talk back to you and alongside you and learning something from them, actually thinking of them as like co-learners or like co-conspirators. So when Newspaper Blackout came out, I didn't want to keep the technique to myself. Like, I wanted to let other people try out the technique. So instead of doing book readings, what we did is we do poetry workshops. And I'd actually encourage people to make their own poems. And then this crazy thing would happen at these workshops. Full-grown adults would get up and read their poems. And I've never seen any kind of adult event where people, adult event, that sounds, you know, kind of scandalous. I've never seen any adults in a room with strangers, you know, get up and read their poems. This is a really awesome thing. And then I would start getting emails from teachers who actually use the poems in their classrooms. And I'd just get these awesome photos of like all these teenagers with like blackout poetry up on the wall and kind of like looking at what they've made and sharing it with each other. So I thought, man, there should really be a place where people can share, you know, I'm not just sharing my own poems, like there should be a place where people can share the stuff that they've made. So that's when I started newspaperblackout.com. And, you know, newspaperblackout.com has taken off in a way that I just never expected. Like, we've published, I think we have like 80,000 readers or something, and, you know, it's bigger than most literary journals. And we've published poems. I say we, it's me, royal we. I have that weird thing. Well, yeah, we, like we're some organization. It's me in my underwear at home posting poems. But, you know, we posted people from all over the world, and we've got just, you know, hundreds and thousands of poems right now. And what's really interesting about this is I thought it was some like philanthropic measure on my part. Oh, let me give a voice to the masses, give them a place where they can share their own stuff. But what's amazing is like I learned just as much from these poems that people send me as I think they do from the ones I post. I mean, I find all kinds of awesome stuff to steal, from these people who send me these really cool poems. And what do you know? If 5 times as many people follow me on Tumblr, where I post other people's work, as my blog, something like 20 times that follow newspaperblackout.com, where it's not me pointing, but it's like people submitting their own stuff. So there's, the share part. So where am I going with all this? Well, I still think do good work and share it with people is pretty good advice. But I was still kind of scratching around for something else. I was wondering if maybe there's another way we can put it. And because I'm a creative kleptomaniac, I was reading my friend Mike Montero's book, Design as a Job, which is this really great book that he put out last year. And there's this section in the book where he's talking about interacting with clients and client pitches and stuff like that. He said, "This isn't magic, it's math. Show your work." And so I thought, that's perfect, I'll steal that. So I'm going to steal that title for my next book, Show Your Work. And because I think there's so much we can learn by actually not just showing the products of our creative efforts, but opening up and sharing our process. So I'm really happy that Creative Mornings is here in Austin. But I think that if we're going to do this, we should really think about the spirit in which we're going to go about this get-together, where we all kind of hang out, on a Friday every month. And I think we should do so in a real spirit of generosity and openness. And so I kind of want to lay down this challenge for us and for the speakers that come after me. I hope we'll get up on stage, and I hope we won't just talk about our finished works and our perfect portfolios, I think we'll also, I hope we'll bring in works in progress in our process. And I hope we'll feel comfortable about sharing work that we're not 100% sure about yet. And I hope we'll talk about not just what we figured out, but what we haven't figured out. I hope in the Aymara sense, we don't just talk about what's in front of us in the past. We talk about what's behind us and what we can't see yet. And, I hope we'll show our successes, but I also hope we show our failures and we show the good, the bad, and the ugly of the creative process. Just as I hope some of the parents here will feel free to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of parenting on Instagram. And finally, and I think this is a real key point, I hope we take advantage of the structure of these get-togethers. The speaker talks, and then we all talk. And I hope we don't just see each other as speaker and audience with this big line in between us, I hope we'll all see each other as co-conspirators, part of a gang. And I hope that somehow by being open and hanging out together and sharing what we know and what we don't know, we'll really learn from each other. Because I think that's what the future looks like. And I think that Austin is the perfect place to do this. It's despite all this development going around us and all these condos or whatever, Austin is still this small, supportive town. There's not a lot of what Bill Hicks called fevered egos, running around. And I think that we can make this thing into this really supportive, good thing, So let's show our work. Thanks for having me.